This video is to just put some thoughts out there for people that you're, not only being targeted, but dealing with the VA is just absolutely ruining your life and your health. I am, oh, I am, uh, my health is not good, and it seems that very little effort is being taken. I'm trying my butt off, but very little effort is being done by others to give me medical care. Uh, very little. Um, and yeah, this stuff can creep up on me. But that's another video to discuss that. Actually, it is creeping up on me. But sometimes you just have to walk forward and leave a situation and leave an agency or people and protect your family. And sometimes that means your family has to be moved to a different place too. Um, but the if you're not being helped, and people that pretend helping you is destructive and they're deceptive. Um, it said it good. I said one thing. The few that were left in Sodom and Gomorrah, they didn't save the city. They weren't enough. They weren't enough to justify God holding back his vengeance. And that also reminds me back to a really poignant statement that was said in 13 Reasons Why. And I know that's a movie for teenagers, but it deals with issues that everybody deals with. And in the current confrontational atmosphere, and especially being in mid Michigan, a lot of people are being targeted. I mean, targeted to the point of people are trying to break people down and break families apart. And these aren't families with bad parents, ignoring their kids, while they're doing criminal activities or they just don't care. These are good families, good people. And people, bad people have really good talent at marketing, so they make it all justifiable. But it's based on no evidence. It's based on lies. It's based on statements that are questionable at best. Just based on just whatever can be whatever can be thrown in the pot. Whether an actual ingredient or not. But sometimes the couple of good people, they can't save a place or an agency or a situation. They can't. It's too little, too late. And that's why the Lord in his wisdom sent the most powerful of his angels, the messenger, the seraphim, the most powerful. He said, get them out of there. And also from 13 Reasons Why, Clay made a statement. Um, I forget his real name. Um, but anyway, I have a migraine right now. But he said, do you talk about the fire in the house or do you just get out of the house? And, that's a very poignant statement. And I think, I have a great affinity with this movie. I've seen, or this series, I've seen it more than once. And I mean, yeah, it's, some could say, oh, it's juvenile. What's wrong with you? But I have affinity with that because I've lived a great portion of it. A great portion of it. I've lived. Especially things that happened to Hannah. Especially, I've lived it. and it has life lessons. It would be good, I think, if somebody would sit down and make this kind of series for adults, because when you think about it, the largest proportion of suicides and people that collapse in breakdowns or go back to destructive habits or just give up on everything is people over 18 or 19. So I think that the issues that are encountered there, the vast majority of date rapes are people over 18 or 19. The vast majority of suicides are people over 18 or 19. The vast majority of drug abuse and people committing sexual assault and even being victims of it are over 18 or 19. The infrastructures and the systems that are in place in the movie, if you're going to take a systems theory approach, they can be paralleled to things that adults deal with: workplace rape, workplace sexual harassment, people being bullied at work or in their community, or maybe homes that are in crisis but nobody's doing anything. So people within the family are, they're beginning to break down and lose hope, or maybe have nervous breakdowns. Things are very relevant. Um, and so sometimes, it's better just to remember, don't discuss the dang burning house while it's burning down. Just get out. And that being said, this VA has done very little, and it's always too little, too late. They humiliated me with a continuous glucose monitor, sent me a prescription without a license number, so I can't use it outside. Nobody's going to take it, even if I'm paying cash. They're like, there's no license number on here. They're not going to take it. They're going to say, oh, you got to order it online, which, most of these places, it's a very ambiguous process and very ambiguous time frames. And then again, do you want to send something as sensitive as a medical device through the mail? I don't. I've done it once. Oh no, actually, I take that back. That didn't go through the mail. We bought it. Um, I never have. Oh no, I take it back. Yeah, there was one thing. Pulse oximeter, but it's encased in hard plastic. The only way it could be damaged is if somebody opened it up. And they would need a jeweler's or a technician's screw set, or a screwdriver set to open it up. But anyway, a prescription without a license on it is useless. And the doctor, he played politics with me, and just gave me a really dismissive statement. I mean, at least it wasn't humiliating, but it was very dismissive. But he didn't want to do anything at that time, which he could. He could walk down to his office. It's only like 5:15. He could walk down to his office and do something about the error, because I'm his patient, not the person that filled out the script. He was doing something else, and they filled in for him. You know, and then we'll have another video concerning the aviary at the Saginaw VA. But we were monitoring a bird that was in distress last week, the whole week, and we it took us 3 days to finally talk to anybody. To get anybody to do anything or to talk to the right person. It took 3 days, and 3 days, and finally, myself mentioned it to a couple of people, and then a couple of veterans called and mentioned it to a few people, and then finally I also talked to my team, one of the office managers, and he said, I'll take this for action. And they notified somebody, but she's like, yeah, I'm the point of contact. I deal with the contractors, but I don't know what to do about this. But in the end, the company that handles this, I hesitate to say anything. This may be a veteran-owned company, but you know what? You know they're letting a bird die in front of the all the people that come to look at the aviary. That's crappy. It's crappy business. It shows a lack of compassion. And those old timer vets that deal with life and death every day, their life is dangling from a string. Do they need to see that? Oh yeah, I see the VA. Even the little bird doesn't matter. We really need to show that kind of morale. This company out of Wisconsin is named Serenity, and they provide thousands of small aviaries to VAs across the country, and they rake in millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. And judging from some of the people that work there, they have a real unrepentant ex-con kind of attitude. So they probably don't vet anybody. Um, yeah, but one of the ladies actually kind of insulted my daughter because she asked a question, and the lady said, "Oh, it died because it's old." My daughter said, "No, it looked injured to us. It would fly a little bit." It was, describing it. She's like, "Oh, little girl, are you an expert on birds?" And I looked at her. I said, "No, but actually, her father is an ecologist. You know, Academically, yeah, I have graduate training in ecology, wildlife and fisheries management, and I've been involved in at least advising, even though people didn't operationalize it, sustainable sustainable aquaculture incomes for Catholic and Orthodox missions. Helping the priests in the churches and and the laity have income for their churches, and so they don't have to worry so much about their clergy, the deacons, the priests' wives, having financing because they have the backing in aquaculture. So I may not be an expert in this, but I'm certainly not just Joe Schmo off the street. I know a little bit about this stuff. And I said, that bird showed signs that it had been injured or it was sick, especially showed signs of either a broken wing or broken rib, like window strike. It's when they hit windows. Bird strike is when birds hit aircraft. Window strike is when birds hit windows or doors, glass things. The rapid breathing. Uh, Generally, it's a sign of either a broken wing or a damaged wing or broken ribs. And the ruffled feathers and such, it sounded like that the bird was in pain. And nobody did anything for a week. And in the end, she just said, "Oh, it died. It died on the ground." What kind of people have that kind of attitude? Or she's got her tattoos up and down her arm and her neck. Um, no empathy at all. Nothing there. And she's like, "I'm here to work." And when I hear people say something like that, it sounds to me like a trustee. Now, there are people who've been through the criminal justice system that are repentant and they're changed. But when people come out with that negative, just crappy, unempathetic, aggressive, whiny, mean attitude, I hate that attitude. Those people and me, we always have problems. I hate that attitude. That was the attitude of this lady. Saying, "I just came here to work. This guy's trying to give me a hard time," and blah, blah. I'm not giving her a hard time. She's the one who keeps yapping. I told her, I said, "Your company caught my attention. We're looking into the background. Hey, don't talk smack." She didn't say the word smack. "About my company, man. Who you think you are, you veteran?" And I told her, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm looking in the background." I said, your company, you guys ignored a bird. Yeah, it's only a bird, but you know what? Considering how many thousands of birds this company has in aviaries, and how many thousands of veterans may be seeing birds die right in front of them, that's crappy. It's uncalled for, especially when this company is making millions of dollars, millions off subcontracts with the VA. You know, and it's called Serenity. it's probably a double meaning. One, oh, birds and an aviary flying around is very calming for us. But as several veterans that we talk to, because we always visit the birds. I mean, the birds they know our faces, especially a couple of them. As soon as they see us, they fly to the closest perch because they know us. They're like, yeah, it's cool. They have the birds here flying around, and it's calming, but they're captive. You got 10 birds in an area that's about 4 by 4. That's just cruel. That's what a couple of veterans said to me. This is mid Michigan. A lot of these people are hunters, so it says a lot. And they're like, how often do they clean it? I'm like, well, I think they clean it once a week. Um, but anyway, that being said, yeah, those ladies had a pretty crummy attitude, and they wanted to keep yapping. I'm not going to be quiet. I don't have to be. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes in my life, but I'm repentant for them, and I change. And I hate bullies. So I'm going to tell her, hey, enough. I'm looking into your company, and you have a crappy attitude. And the fact that you ignored a dying bird when there's veterans here that their life is hanging by a string, they don't need to see that garbage. She wanted to keep yapping. But anyway, I hesitate to say anything, but I'll call the company first, because I'm sure they do a lot of good. Maybe this is an isolated incident, I don't know. But it's certainly worth investigating, and I've begun. It's a family owned business, I know that much. So I'm sure that, the original intentions were good, and, their goals were good. Um, but what happened here, I don't know. I was told by employees of the VA they tried to call the contractors. They even tried to call the company, and the company said, well, we're in Wisconsin. We can't do anything. Get a hold of the local contractors. I don't know what happened to that because we didn't talk to the lady again. I actually gave her my phone number, and I said, you know what? If you need a caretaker of these birds, I will do it for free. And you'll know you'll have a professional. But of course, just like when I volunteered to be a chaplain, I could be some kind of interreligious chaplain. Obviously, since I remarried and and was annulled, um, I was disrobed, but I could still do a lot of good. But I've never heard back. I've given them my resume 3 or 4 times. But again, even for the birds, never heard back. But that being said, sometimes you just have to leave a sinking ship. That's the only thing you can do. You have to protect your crew because in the end, every skipper knows and every pilot knows the only thing that's important is what's inside that hull or inside that fuselage.